Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit and this, as you know, is the new Tata Curvv. We have done the review of the EV version of this car earlier, but I was really excited to drive this car. This specifically is the 1.2 litre turbo petrol all new Hyperion engine, which introduces a lot of new technologies in the Tata Petrol lineup, and I was really looking forward to drive this car because I wanted to know how much progress have Tata made with their new engine. And I've been driving this car for quite some time and there have been some very interesting insights. So if you want a very technical lowdown on how this engine is, how this suspension performs, and if you're not someone who just wants an on the surface kind of a review, then you should definitely stick around because there will be some really interesting insights which I think enthusiasts like you would love to know about. Let's first get done with the specs and what is special about this engine. This is a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder direct injection turbocharged engine, and it also gets a lot of new features, like it gets 350 bar pressure at the fuel injectors, it gets a sodium cooled exhaust valve, it also gets a variable geometry turbocharger and a Miller cycle combustion chamber. And apart from all of that, Tata is claiming that this is one of the quietest engines in its class. In terms of power and torque, the power output here is supposed to be 125 PS at 5000 RPM and the torque output 225 Newton meters at 1715 to 3000 RPM. Also, when you mash the pedal, Tata says that you get a rush of torque. They call it the torque rush, which takes the torque output up to 250 Newton meters. How does all of that stack up in the real world? Well, to start off, I did a 0 to 100 run on this car and the timing that I got was around 12 seconds, give or take maybe 0.2 or 0.3 seconds, which is not bad at all, but is it extremely impressive? I would say not. But what is impressive about this engine is that there is a lot of mid-range grunt, there is a lot of torque available from 1500 RPM onwards. Once the turbo spools up, you do have a surge of torque to ride on, and you do feel that it is a peppy, powerful, torquey engine which has the grunt for very swift overtaking maneuvers, and while you're on the highway you'll enjoy driving it at a brisk pace. So in that sense, this can be enjoyable to a large extent. Also, talking about what the gear speeds are, and in the first gear you'll see about 50 kilometers per hour, in the second gear about 96 kilometers per hour, and in the third gear you'll see about 136 kilometers per hour. About the engine character, now there is absolutely nothing at 1000 RPM. You really have to keep the engine about 1200 RPM to have anything coming out of it, and if you want to be driving within the city, there is going to be a bit of a problem because lower down the rev range, it's not as strong as some of the other even NA engines. So the tractability at the very bottom of the rev range is not very strong. It's only after 1500 RPM that the engine really comes into its own and you can feel the torque flowing through its veins. And from that point onwards, all the way till 5000 RPM, this engine has a very strong surge of torque and it feels like a very powerful, very torquey engine. However, the progress is, unlike what Tata tells us, not very silent or very quiet or very vibe free, because the moment you nudge 2000 RPM, there is a bit of judder to be felt, and it's quite unlike anything that I have experienced in my journalism career. That distinct judder is akin to vibrations, and that takes that silky smoothness away from the engine, which a few other Korean or Japanese cars have, even German cars do. So in terms of outright smoothness, I wouldn't say that this is a very appreciable engine. There are vibrations and harshness, a little bit of gruffness to be experienced on the engine, especially once so even as I'm driving right now, I can feel that jar coming in through the steering wheel, and there is that bit of gruffness. What is likable though is the torque that I mentioned earlier. So if you're looking for a super smooth experience, that is not going to be the case here. There is a little bit of roughness, a little bit of vibiness to the engine. However, if you like the torque in the mid-range, that is there by the bucket load. However, the power delivery isn't exactly linear, and there are flat spots and spikes which we have seen on some other Tata engines earlier as well. And unlike a few other more developed, more evolved engines where once the engine is on song, the power delivery is pretty much linear and it doesn't have any spikes or flat spots, this one does have a few undulations and it does not come across as a power delivery curve which is exactly smooth. So you should be prepared for that as well to a large extent. Even past its 5000 RPM peak output specification, the engine keeps on revving till 6000 RPM, although the progress in terms of power buildup starts fading after 5000 RPM. And while I do like the mid-range curve, the engine feels like it's trying a little bit. It's not at ease. It's doing its own thing and it's not completely sorted while it's trying to move those wheels, and I think it needs a little bit more sorting out before we can call it an evolved, a properly refined, powerful, modern engine. Now, in terms of cruising speeds, when you put the car in the 6th gear, you'll see 100 kilometers per hour on the speedometer with the tacho reading 2250 RPM, and if you put it in the 5th, you'll see 2500, 2600 RPM. So it's not as relaxed also as some of the other engines which do the same speed at about 2000 RPM. So you have about 250 to 300 clicks more than similar engines which do a similar speed at a slightly lower RPM. In terms of tractability, in the 6th gear, you'll have to keep this car above 50 kilometers per hour if you want to keep it moving. Below that, it kind of stalls. In the 5th gear, you have to keep it above 40 kilometers per hour. In the 4th gear, you have to keep it above 35 kilometers per hour. And in the 3rd gear, you have to keep it above 30 kilometers per hour. This is not the best tractability numbers that we have seen, and tractability, as I mentioned, is not one of the high points of this engine. In terms of fuel efficiency, you'd get, I think, about 8 to 9 kmpl within the city, and on the highway, you'll get about 12 kmpl, 12 to 13 kmpl. The fuel efficiency is not a strong suit of this engine. It is reasonably powerful, it is very torquey. However, it's not going to be very fuel efficient. And we have just been driving this car. By the way, this has not been idling. We have done a bit of testing also. And we drove at a very gingerly pace during the morning. And as you can see, the engine is after 54.3 kmpl delivering a fuel efficiency of 8.2 kmpl. I don't think it's a very impressive number. I would have done with a slightly better number, to be completely honest with you. Coming towards the transmission, it is mated, as you can see, with a 6-speed manual transmission, and it will also come with a dual clutch automatic transmission, which is a 7-speeder that we don't have with us right now, and we'll get that transmission, which is again mated to a diesel also for the first time in this segment, and we'll be driving that car. I'll be doing a separate review of that engine transmission combo. But for now, with this specific engine transmission combo, what I have seen is that the clutch play, the travel of the clutch lever is quite long. It's not the most compact or the most modulable modern clutch pedals that I've seen, and you really have to press your foot down. I'm not saying it's hard, it's reasonably soft, but the travel is quite long, and what that results in is that while you're starting from a standstill, there may be a chance that you might stall the car. So you really have to modulate the clutch if you want to get going, and before the clutch grabs on, there is a chance that it slips and the car stalls. So you really have to be careful, and putting the car in motion, bringing it to a stop, shifting gears is not as effortless as it is in some of the other cars. So the clutch by itself is not the most sorted. The gear shifts, as you can see, it's not a short throw gearbox per se. It's not a long throw gearbox per se. It's somewhere in the middle, and I'm satisfied with the gear shift quality. It's not notchy, and it's not super slick also, as you would see on some of the Hyundai cars where you just have to push it with your pinky finger and it just slots in like a click. It's not that, but it's not bad also. I must appreciate the fact that the gear shift, the manual gear shifts are pretty good, but the overall experience of the gear shift is not the best. It is decent, it is acceptable. I would have liked the clutch to have a little less travel than what it has. So this is the noise that I was talking about. Inherently, 3-cylinder engines are not supposed to be the smoothest, and if you can hear the engine noise right now, this is the gruffness and the engine noise that I was talking about. It's not very sporty per se, and there are engines which are smoother, and even when they make noise, you know, it's music to the ears. But this here has a sense of gruffness, as I mentioned, and it's more noise than music to the ears. However, it's very well insulated from the environment, and the ambient noise does not come in. There is no tire noise coming in. The tires by themselves are reasonably good. They are 215 section tires. They are low profile, 55 and 18-inch wheels, and despite all of that, the ride quality is not complaint worthy. And let me just take it off the road a little bit, and it can take such bad surfaces in its stride without any problem. The ground clearance here is about 208 mm unladen, and that lends it with the capability to soft road, to be taken off the road, not off road but off the road with relative ease. And as you can see, I'm taking it on some really bad surfaces. There's no creaking noise coming in, and the suspension is comfortable. There is absolutely nothing that I'm going to complain about in terms of the way this car goes over bad surfaces. So in terms of comfort, in terms of its pliability, in terms of the fact that it is absorbent, this car is pretty good. And if ride comfort is something which is high on your priority list, then this car is not going to disappoint you. The same, however, cannot be said about the handling on this car, and there are two aspects to it. First, the steering, and as we have seen on a lot of other Tata cars as well, the steering generally is not very well connected to the road, and there is a lot of artificialness to the steering wheel. It does weigh up when you put it in the sport mode, and it turns a little bit loose when you put it in the city or the eco mode. However, it's not the kind of experience that you'll get on a few more sportily oriented cars, and it's a far cry from something like, say, the Volkswagen Virtus or even a Taygun or a Kushaq, where you do really feel that you're connected to the road in some sense, and you can place the car very reassuringly on the road, and there is a connect between the steering wheel and the wheels which are on the tarmac. Here, there is a bit of disconnect, and if you're an enthusiast, you'd feel that missing link, and that's one thing that I value a lot. A lot of people don't, I understand, but this car does not have that beautiful connection that a lot of motoring enthusiasts crave for. Apart from that, the other thing is that there is a bit of body roll to be experienced. I won't say that this is boat-like, this is too wobbly, but this is also not one of the nicest handling cars. As I mentioned, a 215 section rubber does not squeal very easily, but as I'll demonstrate to you now, it can be made to squeal when you're starting from a standstill. There are cars which will squeal a lot more when we do that. Around corners also, they do wail after a bit, but overall they are good tires. So the tires are not a problem, but when you chuck it hard around corners, there is a bit of body roll to be experienced. So while at moderate speeds, it does come across as a car which has a really dependable set of four wheels, but you need to practice caution, because if you're someone who's used to cars like the Virtus or the Slavia, it's not quite in the same league. Even the other cars which are based on the same platform, the Kushaq and the Taygun, which are again the SUVs which are comparable to this car, this is not as driver oriented, not as enthusiast oriented as those cars. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. Overall, It's an acceptable set of four wheels. It can be driven fast, it can be chugged around corners, it can be a fun car to drive when you are in the mood. All I'm saying is there are other cars in the segment which have set the bar higher, and this one does not match that standard. All in all, what I really liked about this engine transmission combo is that it has a very punchy nature. There is a lot of power and torque to be experienced in the mid-range. Those of you who like a car which goes really quickly and powerfully in the mid-range, they're going to probably like it. And for an all-new engine, it's a decent effort, but is it something that makes me go wow? I would say not. And the transmission also is decent. It's not bad at all. But the overall feel is not something which is going to tug at the hearts of an enthusiast. There is a lot of torque steer to be experienced at the wheel as well. And I really believe that from a day-to-day perspective, this is a good car. It's stylish, it's comfortable, it's spacious, it's loaded with every feature that you can imagine. It has a beautiful panoramic sunroof. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, if you're looking for something which is technically very sound, then this is not at the top of the hierarchical order. This is somewhere in the middle. So all in all, this is an engine which does not quite hold its own against, say, if you're comparing it with the turbo engines from Hyundai, the GDI, or the 1.5 liter TSI from the Volkswagen Group. But if you compare it with the smaller 1 liter from Volkswagen, or if you compare it with the 1.5 NA from Hyundai, this has its own standing. This is more powerful. And in that sense, if you are an out-and-out enthusiast, you'll probably do well with buying those more powerful petrol engines. But if you're someone who wants a good balance, then this engine is a good mix. Although it's not as refined, does not come across as evolved as some of the other modern engines. So that was the drive part, guys, and now I am at the second most important thing that you want to know about this car. And as you can see, I am seated in the back seat. Entry and exit to the car is pretty easy. However, as you can see, myself being 5 feet 10, there is hardly any space between my head and the roof. So if you're a 6-footer or taller, your head is definitely going to be brushing with the roof. You have this armrest and you have two individual headrests. Although you don't have the central headrest, you have this 3-point seat belt. And if you want to have a look at the knee room, you can have a look from here. So there is a decent amount of knee room. I think the thigh support is also quite good, and my knees are not pointing skywards. So the seat comfort by itself is not bad at all. But if you're looking for headroom, if you're a tall person, then the Tata Curvv falls a little bit short as compared to the other SUVs in this segment. And other SUVs like, say, the Creta, the Seltos, the Taygun, the Kushaq, etc. have a little bit more headroom at the back seat. All in all, in terms of the amenities, there is no problem at all. The car is very quiet, the suspension is good, and you also have space for a big water bottle here. Apart from that, there is a big panoramic sunroof, so you don't feel claustrophobic. There's a lot of light coming inside the cabin. It's very well insulated. And all in all, if you're not someone who's particularly tall, then it's a car which is acceptable. The knee room is not the most generous, but it's not too bad either. And the body type is such that it is not the most suited for being practical. So you'll have to live with that. If you want that flamboyant exterior, then you'll have to make a compromise somewhere. And this exactly is the point where that compromise comes in. Now you also have AC vents, you have a Type A and Type C fast charging sockets, so that's a fantastic thing. Although on the top of the line variant, which is this one, you don't have any back seat pockets, you don't have any magazine holders, and that's something that we would have really liked to have here. The seats are 60-40 split as well, so in addition to the 500 liters boot space that you have, you can also drop down one of the seats if you want to. You have ISOFIX child seat mounts, you have your individual reading lights, and you also have these retractable handles. And on the left hand, you also have this coat hook. You have a coat hook here as well as here as well. It's a comfortable seat. Is it the most comfortable in its class? No. Is it acceptable? Yes, if you're not very tall. Now up front, this is the same familiar interior that we have seen on the Curvv EV as well, and you name the feature and this car has it. Some of the most amazing features are present here, and this beautiful 12.3-inch screen, it's something that we absolutely love. And let's start with this amazing camera. This is one of the most high res in its class, and you can really have a proper 3D view of this car. And as you can see, it presents the environment in a very high res, very detailed way better than a lot of other cars in this segment, and I really appreciate that. You can choose one of the camera angles from here. You can look at the front two wheels, at the rear two wheels, and in the 3D view you can have a look at it from the side as well. You have all of these settings for the camera here, and all in all, of all the cars that we have in this segment, the 3D camera on the Curvv has to be one of the best, if not the best. Apart from that, it's loaded to the gills with features. It comes with this wireless charging here, electronic parking brake, auto hold. It comes with driving modes. It gets this 12-volt power socket, Type A, Type C, wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, 12.3-inch high resolution screen, JBL audio, which is fantastic, one of the best in the segment, this beautiful panoramic sunroof, and it also gets ventilated seats, electrically powered seats, this beautiful backlit 4-spoke steering wheel. It gets all the ADAS functions. It gets this armrest, and there is some space to spare underneath. You can put like things like this sunglasses holder or a wallet, quite a few of them, so there's no problem here. Although apart from this little space here, I don't see any other places to put in your stuff. This is just about sufficient. I am a little bit greedy when it comes to having storage spaces, and I would have liked a bit more space, but I'm not complaining. I think this is just about sufficient. You also get this ambient lighting that you can see here, and apart from that, you have mood lighting as well. So in the night, as you're driving, you have a beautiful halo of lighting emanating around these contours, and as you can see here, it looks really nice and beautiful as you're driving in the night. It's really, really beautiful. You have this really beautiful burgundy color leatherette seats with a matching stitching pattern, and all of this is really nice. 6 airbags, you get adaptive cruise control, all the modern features. What's really important and doesn't get enough mention is it gets auto headlamps, which get high beam assist. So if a car is coming from the opposite direction, you don't really have to fiddle around with the stalks. So that's a fantastic feature to have. All of that is amazing. You get cornering light function. The only thing that I don't like about this interior is that it is not the most well finished. And if you look at this point where the two panels match, so what we are showing you right now is a panel gap which is less than what we'll show you now, and here the panel gap is more than what we showed you there. So these are little inconsistencies that Tata has still not managed to get over with. Also, if you look at this little part here, it's cut like it's been cut with a knife. There's a jagged edge here, and these are not the kind of things that we expect from a modern car. It's not only on this side, on the other side also, if you have a look, it looks like it's not properly cut, and these are some small things. I also think that the texture and the plastic quality on most parts, like here, here and here, could have been a little better. It's not coming across as very nice. I don't have a problem with plastic, but this is not the top quality plastic that I've seen. As you can see, the grain here has already been scratched, and I'm pretty sure that after some time, when the sunlight falls on it, it's not going to age very well. So all of these parts could have been finished a little bit better, but having said all of that, it does come across as a well put together interior, and it does look like a very opulent car. At the center part, you have a button for 360-degree camera, lock, unlock, rear boot release, which of course is powered. You have hill descent control, AC controls, express cooling, and all of those things. Apart from that, within this system itself, you have quite a few features. You have an air purifier with AQI index. The sound quality, as I mentioned, is fantastic. And once you press this little button here, you have all the icons with all the features. So it's been tiled very nicely, and you can access everything very, very easily. This system also doubles up as an image as well as video player, and all of this is fantastically laid out. No problems whatsoever in terms of the features, the resolution, and the functionality of this screen out here. There's an auto dimming IRVM. On this side you don't have a mirror, but on this side you do, although you don't have illumination. And generally speaking, I don't have any complaints with the features, although I would have really liked the finish to be a little bit better. The AC also works fantastically well. Now, it's not the first time that you're seeing this car. I have done a very detailed review of this car in the EV format, and if you talk specifically about the ICE version of this car and compare it with its immediate rivals, it's not as long as the Creta or the Seltos or the other cars in the segment. It's not also the one with the longest wheelbase. The wheelbase is short, but it is one of the widest, and it definitely is one of the most flamboyant looking, if nothing else. And there are a lot of features that are there on this car in terms of lighting and everything else. We have already demoed all of that, but I'll quickly go through all of that again so that you don't have to watch the other video. So when you unlock the car, the lights will do this dance to welcome you. You have a 360-degree camera sitting here. You have this nice adornment on the top and at the bottom. All of this looks really nice. You have this bifunction LED projector lamp, a fog lamp, which also doubles up as a cornering lamp. And the front grille and the bumper and all of that has been done really nice. You have a connected LED DRL, and I quite like what they've done with the front of this car. It looks very flamboyant, as I mentioned. Somewhere underneath you also have the hidden radars. You have a camera sitting up front for the ADAS functions. Coming towards the right, you have big 18-inch wheels. The ground clearance is about 208 mm. A swooping roofline shark fin antenna. Curvv branding here. Nice glossy applique at the door bottom, and of course these beautiful flush fitting handles with a light here, both front and at the rear. Chrome at the window line, a 360-degree camera with turn indicators on the ORVM as well. The fuel tank sits here, and this car, as you can see, has discs both up front and at the rear, so the braking is really good, very dependable. And the key is with me right now. Let me just lock the car, and as you can see, the blinkers are also swipe out both up front and at the rear. So when you unlock the car, not just at the front, at the rear also, the lights do their dance. You have the Curvv branding here, the 360-degree camera sits here, and you also have gesture controlled powered tailgate. And let me just give you a demo of that as well. So you have to have the key in your pocket, and then you have to swipe your leg underneath the car like so, and this opens up and reveals the 500-liter boot, which is best in class. And as you can see, it's quite cavernous, so if you're traveling with your entire family for a long holiday, it has all the space that you need. The JBL woofer is also sitting here. The illumination is right there. You have these hooks, and you also have these two crevices which can be opened, and you can put additional stuff here if you so wish. These mats that you see here are not standard fitment. These are accessories, but they're quite useful, especially in wet weather like the one that we're facing right now. And when you want to bring the tailgate down, you just have to press the button and it comes down like so. While it's all sporty and beautiful and people have been comparing it with the Lamborghini Urus and whatnot, I think that the boot looks like it's a little bit overdone to me. And as I mentioned during the Curvv EV review of mine as well, the boot here could have been slightly lower and more squat to give it more presence. Right now it looks a little too high to me, and from purely a design perspective, I think the rear end of this car could have been slightly lower and slightly squatter. The Curvv has been priced very competitively from 10 to 19 lakh rupees. Comes with a warranty of 3 years, 1 lakh kilometers, is available in 6 different colors, and all of those colors can be seen on the screen right now. If you're looking for a car which is loaded to the gills with features, is very different from anything else on the road right now, and has practicality, good boot space, and of course is an India-made car, you should go ahead and take a test drive of this car. Of course, there is the diesel as well, and while on this car I did a very detailed review of the exterior and the interior. I'll do a experiential video of the engine and transmission on that car, so you should check that video out as well. And if you want to watch the videos of all the variants of this car, including the top of the line variant, the mid variant and the base variant, I have done separate walkarounds of all the different variants as well, so you can check that out on Motoroids as well. If you like this detailed review, do share some love with us, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids, do tell your friends about us. And until next time, this is your friend Amit signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.